see you?
I'm trying to think the last time we
It's been a
talked.
while. It's
Years.
been a while. Yeah, it's
been nice.
Pre-pandemic or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know what. Definitely that.
Yeah.
I know we co-hosted that Troy Gentry celebration of life thing. At
Yeah,
the
but
Opry
my
House.
God, surely I've seen you since then.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so. But regardless, it's just like we picked up right where we left off.
We're Okies, so that's what we do.
We're going to talk with. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's one of the subjects. We're calling this segment with Blake Shelton, Crystal Balls, Flowers, Bars, and the Great State of Oklahoma.
Okay. It's catchy. That's a very
It is.
catchy segment.
It's, I'm trying to write a song, and I'll need some help with that. Let's start with Flowers first.
Okay.
A beautiful duet with you and Gwen called Purple Irises that we're playing a lot on the Big 615.
Oh, thank you.
And I love the story that you guys actually transplanted an entire field of purple irises closer to your home in Oklahoma, and this is a real deal in your life.
It truly is, and it's turned into like this very passionate, family thing that, Gwen is like the leader of this coalition to, I don't even know if that's the right word or not, but it is.
Flower club?
Yeah. Well, and how it happened is, years ago when I first started bringing Gwen back to Oklahoma to kind of introduce her to this guy, that she needs to start learning about if she wants to have this relationship. And she's always loved flowers her entire life, and so when she started coming to Oklahoma and then spending time outdoors, I think the first thing she began to notice is it's so different from California as far as the plants and things. She's like, "Oh my God, what kind of flower is that? What is that?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. I've never looked at them in my whole life. Just mow them down or they, drive over them. These flowers everywhere." And she really kind of opened my eyes to that because I've always been an outdoorsy guy. I love to hunt and fish. I spent 80% of my life outside, doing something.
But she's pointing out the pretty things.
Yeah, and I never, all this time, I literally am spraying these things, trying to kill them. And she's like, "Oh my God, I looked it up. That's a this or that." Well, I remember it was like probably 2018 or 19. There's this old abandoned house on our ranch, just like a lot of places in Oklahoma. You see these old barns and stuff, and there's a patch of irises. We used to call them flags when I was growing up. I do remember that, but there's this old patch of irises that's probably been there for 100 years. Who knows, because they just come back every year. And she was like, "Oh my God, those are just growing wild there?" And I said, "Yeah, there was an old house here, and she goes, "Well, we need to put those
closer to our house."
Yeah, closer to the house, And so there we were out there, pulling them out. They pull out pretty easy and bring them back to the house and put them in. And then the next year, because of wherever they were was kind of a shaded area, very wooded area, they'd kind of got out in the sun, and these huge, big purple irises came out of these things,
Bigger and better than before.
They didn't even have flowers on them before. It was just the greenery, you know. And so we had no idea what color they were going to be. We didn't know anything about them. I'd forgotten about them, And I came home one day, probably close to this time of year, March or so, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell are those, And it really, if she hadn't have, put in the effort and got us, all the kids, everybody was digging these things up. It was just something to do one day and put them in. And now it's like,
it's a part of your life.
That's the family purple iris patch, you know what I mean? It's right there in front of our house, and we see it, and it's just really cool. And so I didn't know if you wanted me to go into this much detail about it, but
absolutely.
Then eventually, she's been writing. She's been trying to put together an album for a few years now, and one day she came in and she had written the song "Purple Irises." And I told her, I was like, "Man, there's something really special about that song, and it kind of has a little bit of country to it, but it's pop also. It's just got a lot of elements." And she had originally cut it by herself, and then I think a few months later, I'd probably gotten in her ear so much about that song because I was like, "How are you going to,
That's
you need to put
our song."
I know, even though I had nothing to do with it. So eventually she asked if I wanted to sing on it, and of course I jumped at the opportunity, and here we are. You guys are playing it, and that's the fun thing, about this business is, there's just one day there's there's not purple irises, and
Mm-hmm.
the next day there is this song called Purple Irises that exists, and it's on the radio. It's pretty crazy, you know.
And the metaphor too, when it comes to the relationship part of the song, is just perfect. I mean, no relationship is perfect, and it all comes with doubts. It all comes with second guessing. It all comes with what ifs, and that's what the song's really about.
You know, it's really and she really leans into, you know, we're getting older, you know, and
Are you still going to like me?
yeah, are you still going to like me when I get old? And you know, we are old now, so I guess that's the answer to that question.
And you're still liking each other.
Right, that's
so good. Congratulations on that. We're going to play it right now on the Big 6-1.